Majroor Sultanpuri and Balraj Sahani were both jailed in 1949 itself. For what mistakes, sir? During one of the meetings organized for the mill workers in 1949, Majroor Sultanpuri recited a poem that was written against Jawaharlal Nehru, and therefore he had to go to the jail. And today we hold our constitution in our hand, go about it and say freedom of speech. There is sense of fear in the country. Majroor Sultanpuri didn't feel it. Balraj Sahani didn't feel it. Let me say, sir, that is because the first Prime Minister of this country deplored press scrutiny of his government, even as he publicly praised freedom of the press. There was no doubt about it. And he had scrutinized the amending bill himself before approving its introduction in the Parliament. In the Parliament, sir, it didn't go through smoothly at all. The voices which spoke about it, and I will also refer some of the observations made by eminent members, vehemently who opposed it. Sri Shyama Prasad Mukherjee said, you can pass a law, I'm quoting, sir, you can pass a law and say that the entire task of framing, interpreting, and working the Constitution will be left in the hands of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, assisted by such people whom he may desire to consult. I would think it was a snide remark, saying, oh, you do it all yourself with the people who you choose to have and not with the approval of the Parliament. That was the extent to which Pandit Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was upset about this amendment. Sir, he also said, you're treating this Constitution as a scrap of paper. You have declared preamble of your Constitution that you have done something unheard of in history, that within so short a period of attainment of freedom, you have trusted the people of this country to draft a Constitution. You have given a charter of rights to them. Now, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee says, now you come forward and stab them in the back. You're not working for the benefit of the present generation, but for party ends. But for party ends, unquote. Sir Sri Kameshwar Singh, a member of the Constituent Assembly, also had a lot of comments to pass, and he said, I quote, this Parliament, again, is a provisional one, and it cannot be said to be reflecting the will of the people in the way the Constitution wants Parliament to reflect it. For a government or a Parliament of this kind, it is highly improper to make such fundamental changes in the Constitution without making any reference to public opinion, and that too at the fag end of the strenuous parliamentary session and almost on the eve of a general election, unquote. So scathing remarks were made, and despite these remarks, Prime Minister Nehru went ahead with the amendment. Kameshwar Singh again goes about to say, do they not show, I quote, do they not show utter disregard for the Constitution when they attempt to amend it simply because some of the laws have been criticized and found invalid by the judiciary? Today we hear comments from the Indian National Congress about how the current government is questioning the judiciary. This comment coming from a member of the Constituent Assembly itself says, prior to the First Amendment to the Constitution, which curtailed freedom of expression. The Prime Minister, he furthers, the Prime Minister, I'm constrained to say, that is Sri Kameshwar Singh, the Prime Minister, I'm constrained to say, is creating a bad precedent by sowing the seed of executive despotism, and playing with the supremacy of the Constitution for party advantages, unquote. So there was no doubt this amendment was more raised for the sake of the party or the Prime Minister and the government's image, rather than assuring what the Constituent Assembly had suggested as the Constitution, which was going to be adopted. An amendment bill was passed, the Press Objectionable Matter Act, on 23rd October 1951. We know, therefore, the amendment, the intent, the four tests that I was talking about: social impact and intent, economic impact and intent, the constitutional spirit, and the process adopted for the amendment, all of which are questionable, but nevertheless that amendment was undertaken, and we heard how that amendment till today affects the freedom of speech of this country. Now, it is not as if this 1951 amendment happened all in a sudden. Prior to the amendment and post the amendment, we've had recorded action taken by those government that day, that particular government, in curtailing the freedom of speech. So the act was just waiting to happen, because even before it they started it, and even after that they were continuing. What are the examples, sir? Majrooh Sultanpuri and Balraj Sahani were both jailed in 1949 itself. For what mistakes, sir? During one of the meetings organized for the mill workers in 1949, Majrooh Sultanpuri recited a poem that was written against Jawaharlal Nehru, and therefore he had to go to the jail. Sir, he refused to render an apology for the same and was jailed, therefore, in 1949, along with Balraj Sahni, eminent actor of those days. So that is the level of tolerance. And, today we hold our constitution in our hand, go about it, and say freedom of speech. There is sense of fear in the country. Majrooh Sultanpuri didn't feel it, Balraj Sahni didn't feel it, but the history repeats when it comes to the Congress party. Sir, Congress's record of curtailing freedom of speech didn't confine it with these two people. Nehru, a political biography which was written by Michael Edwards, in 1975 was banned. They banned also a film called Kissa Kursi Ka in 1975, which was directed by Amritlal Nahata, just because it questioned Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and her son, and also the Information Broadcasting Minister then. They banned also John Dalby's book, Himalayan Blunder, because it spoke about some huge crushing military disaster which happened in 1962, the China War. The details shouldn't come out, and therefore they banned that book as well. So this, and a bit later, 1988, Salman Rushdie's book, Satanic Verses, was also banned. So the spree of curtailing the freedom of expression, the spree of, containing freedom of press has happened before 49, and during 49 and 50, 51, the act comes, and subsequently also it continues. So it's nothing new.